Alicia Gray is having a word with someone in the crowd, and now security is also involved.
Well, looks like that fan is being...
It was a moment that froze a playoff game solid. Alicia Gray of the Atlanta Dream stopped dead in her tracks, turning away from the court to point an accusatory finger directly into the crowd. Security rushed in, confusion spread, and the broadcast quickly cut away. In that instant, it seemed something explosive and ugly had just erupted in the stands. A shocking disruption in the middle of a critical game. But what happened next was even more incredible than the initial drama, because the story Alicia Gray tried to tell, the reason she summoned security, began to implode faster than a house of cards in a hurricane. The whole incident exploded into a mess of contradictions. While on the court, the Indiana Fever were busy making history, proving that sometimes the biggest statement isn't what you claim, but what you achieve. This is the story of a narrative that backfired and a team that refused to be broken. And if you're someone who loves seeing the truth win out, then stick around, because this tale has more twists than a thriller novel. And before we dive deeper, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more unfiltered sports stories you won't hear anywhere else.
Plus, the WNBA does not appreciate fans, don't want us there. We have been thrown out of games for a multitude of ridiculous things. We have watched these players complain and trash us all. They called half of us racist. They've called all types of stuff. All types of stuff. Now, without Caitlin Clark, the viewership has been cut in half by 50%. 50% for the playoffs. For the playoffs, y'all.
The scene was set for a high-stakes playoff battle. But the real drama wasn't just on the scoreboard. When Alicia Gray pointed toward the Indiana Fever fans, the message was intended to be crystal clear. A line had been crossed. A player had been disrespected. The immediate reaction from the Atlanta Dream side was to paint a picture of an unforgivable offense, something so serious it demanded the immediate removal of paying fans from the arena. On live television, it created that exact illusion, a moment of justified outrage. You could see the confusion ripple through the arena. Players looked over, coaches tensed up, and the broadcasters struggled to find the right words, quickly cutting to a wide shot as if the event itself was too volatile to show. This wasn't just a simple interaction. It was a theatrical display designed to signal victimhood and shift the momentum away from a game that was quickly slipping from Atlanta's grasp.
We got a fan kicked out last night against the Indiana Fever, only for the fan to speak their piece to the security. Security found out, oh, you didn't say anything at all, actually. Yeah, come back to your seat. Let me just wipe that seat off for you. Here, please, have a seat, ma'am. Alicia Gray played like absolute you-know-what last night and decided to take it out on a fan.
The Dream, in that moment, bet everything on the court of public opinion, hoping the spectacle would overshadow their on-court struggles. But before the night was even over, the cracks in this carefully constructed story started to show. The first sign that things weren't adding up came from the initial reports and descriptions of the event itself. Some outlets, perhaps echoing the Dream's initial press statements, called it light heckling, the kind of banner that's part and parcel competitive sports. Others, however, picked up a more sensational thread, hinting at something far more vicious and personal, leaving the public to imagine the worst. But crucially, and this is the most telling part, no one from the Atlanta organization could actually provide a consistent, believable, or specific account of what was said.
This is nuts. By the way, security brought this couple back in and apologized to them. All right, they removed the couple because they do it to let the players calm down, because it's clear these players aren't professionals. Hey, that's what you owe us. You owe us at this point. Stop it. Stop it. So she's now fully...
The story changed depending on who you listen to, a clear indication that the facts were not on their side. This fundamental inconsistency was the first red flag, the first hint that the foundation of this controversy was not built on solid ground, but on sand ready to be washed away by the incoming tide of truth. Because while the Dream were scrambling to control the narrative, the actual truth was already starting to leak out from the people who were actually there, the unbiased eyes and ears in the stands. Eyewitnesses sitting mere feet from the incident began to speak up on social media and to reporters, and their version of events was not just different, it was dramatically opposite to the one being pushed. According to multiple corroborating accounts, the fan didn't yell a slur or a deeply personal attack at Alicia Gray. Instead, he was shouting encouragement to his own team's player, Lexi Hull, who was tasked with the difficult job of guarding Gray. The phrase uttered was reportedly, "You're good, Lex. She's not even trying anymore."
Count of the situation. The guy in the black hat yelled to Lexi, who was running to guard Gray, and said, quote, "You're good, Lex. She's not even trying anymore." Gray lost her shit and said some very nasty words to the guy and the people next to him. Because he said she's not even trying anymore. She can't handle that kind of heckling. Are you kidding me? Quit sports today.
This context changes everything. It was a comment meant to boost a Fever player's confidence, a common tactic fans use to support their team. It was either genuinely misinterpreted by a frustrated Gray, or, more cynically, perhaps weaponized by her as a convenient excuse. The idea that the simple, benign remark, standard sports fare, could trigger such a dramatic, game-stopping response seemed not just thin, but utterly ridiculous to any objective observer. Gray's own reaction, described by witnesses as involving some very choice words directed back at the fan, suddenly painted a very different picture entirely. It no longer looked like a player under siege, but rather like a player frustrated with her own performance on a bad night, looking for an external outlet to blame for her struggles. The victim narrative was rapidly crumbling, replaced by an image of poor sportsmanship and a startling inability to handle the mild pressures of a playoff environment.
The guy did not say anything out of line whatsoever. They were let back in shortly after. When asked what happened, he said that they said it was protocol to remove the fan to allow the player to calm down. I mean, all these players ought to be playing in bozo outfits. Gray had a bad night, and there is no excuse for the things she said or the way she...
But the single most damning piece of evidence that completely shattered the narrative came next. It was an action that spoke louder than any words could. The fans who were escorted out didn't stay out. In a move that speaks volumes about the actual severity of the situation, security personnel actually apologized to the couple and allowed them to return to their seats just a short time later. Let that sink in. Think about the standard protocol for genuine, abusive fan behavior. If a fan had truly unleashed a torrent of vile, unacceptable abuse targeting a player's character, they would have been swiftly and permanently banned from the arena. There would be no apology. There would be a trespass notice. The fact that security felt compelled to bring these fans back and apologize indicates they quickly realized a serious error had been made based on a false or exaggerated claim. This fact alone exposed the entire incident as a monumental overreaction, a tempest in a teapot. It was no longer a story about abusive fans. It had definitively become a story about a player who couldn't handle the mildest form of criticism during a bad game, and an organization all too willing to support that fragile mentality.
Alicia Gray getting this fan kicked out, and of course, the internet went ablaze. Oh my God, those Indiana Fever fans! Bah, 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 bah. Of course, after the fake hoax of early this year with Angel Reese, Angel Smollett, some people are calling her. The fake race hoax, people were saying, oh my gosh, those Indiana Fever fans, what could they have possibly said? And the rumor mill starts going, and
the optics were devastating. As the game continued, it became painfully clear that one team was focused on manufacturing drama and playing the victim, while the other was focused on dominating the game and letting their performance do the talking. The lie, as fans and commentators quickly branded it, had been fully exposed, turning a moment of intended sympathy into one of deep and lasting embarrassment for Atlanta, a stain on their professionalism that would be discussed long after the final buzzer. The backlash across social media and sports forums was immediate and merciless. The incident was almost universally dubbed a hoax or a false flag, a desperate, cynical ploy designed to shift attention away from a crumbling performance on court. Commentators and fans alike meticulously pointed out the glaring inconsistencies in the Dream story, with many comparing it to other recent controversies where serious allegations have been used as a strategic shield to deflect from poor play or internal team issues.
NBA players, you guys are not ready for the big lights. You're not ready for the big lights. You're not ready. I could look you in your eyes and see you're not ready. Y'all can't handle people showing up to games. Y'all can't handle people actually being an interest.
The Atlanta Dream, instead of garnering the support and sympathy they so clearly sought, found themselves being mocked relentlessly for a profound lack of professionalism and mental toughness. The contrast couldn't have been starker. On one side, you had a team embroiled in a self-created scandal, looking rattled, thin-skinned, and distracted from the actual task at hand. On the other side, you had the Indiana Fever, played with a unity, purpose, and sheer grit that was about to make history against all odds. The fake controversy didn't just fail to achieve its goal, it backfired spectacularly, adding a layer of poetic justice to the night. It made the Fever's eventual victory taste even sweeter for their fans, and it made the Dream's defeat look not just like a loss, but like a karmic consequence of their actions, an absolute and deserved collapse on every level, narrative, strategic, and spiritual.
Fever, go! Bow, bow, bow! Let's go! Fever! Go, Fever!
Let's go, Fever! Fever in 3!
Let's go! Play out, baby! This is the reason! This is our season! We turn up time! Indiana Fever, that time, we on the map! Let's go!
And what a victory it was, because the Indiana Fever were facing a mountain of adversity that would have crushed the spirit of most teams. This wasn't just another playoff game. It was a pure must-win scenario to keep their entire season alive. The stakes were immense. It was a first home playoff game for franchise in nearly a decade, a moment an entire fan base had been waiting for, hoping to reconnect with a winning tradition. And most daunting of all, they had to face this win-or-go-home moment without their brightest star, the player who brought national attention back to the franchise. Caitlin Clark was ruled out for the season. Key contributor Sophie Cunningham was unavailable. Vital rotational pieces like Sydney Coulthard and Chloe Bibby were sidelined with injuries. The Fever were essentially going into a war with 5 players in street clothes. Their roster stretched to its absolute limit, asking role players to become stars and bench warmers to become crucial contributors.
There's a certain desperation that has to come with how you play every possession. I didn't feel like in game 1 we played with that desperate, mentality that we needed. Particularly when you look at 50-50 balls, when you look at how many times, we didn't get inside the 3-point line for a defensive rebound and the ball hit the floor and they were able to get it. There's got to be a desperation that you play with and a sense of urgency that you play with at all times. We didn't have that consistently for 40 minutes in game 1. I expect us.
The external expectation was that they would be deflated, emotionally drained, overmatched, and simply out of firepower. But what happened inside a roaring, electrified Gainbridge Fieldhouse was the exact opposite of expectation. The crowd, a sea of red, understood the stakes perfectly. They weren't just passive spectators. They became a genuine sixth player, injecting life and energy into a team that needed every single ounce of it. The Fever, rather than folding under the weight of circumstance, collectively decided to make a stand, to prove that the name on the front of the jersey meant more than the names missing from the back of it. What followed was a masterclass in resilience, heart, and sheer defensive will.
Boston backing down Jones, post moves, banks it in, bow, bow, bow. Underway, it's 2-0 Fever through the first 20 seconds.
Bree Jones, so crafty around the bucket, good footwork, little fadeaway there.
First bucket for Kelsey Mitchell, who's having a spectacular season.
Powers muscling it up. Good and one. There's the energy off the bench from Ariel Powers as she.
And just like that, Indiana flipped a season-ending blow into one of the most uplifting nights in franchise history. It wasn't about who was missing, it became all about who was willing to step up. And now, that incredible resilience leads us right into the best part, the way their stars completely changed the entire game on the court.
Atlanta is very reactive on defense right now. They are not dictating the way that we saw them in game one. And credit to Fever for their level of aggressiveness.
Mitchell whips a pass, left block, Turner, extra, Tosh puts it in! Mitchell from the logo, pulls, top of the arc three, got it!
With their offensive firepower severely shorthanded, Indiana knew the game would be won or lost on the defensive end of the court, and they delivered performance of the ages, a textbook example of team defense. Led by the steady, commanding hand of Aaliyah Boston in the paint, who controlled the rim with authority, and the tenacious, lockdown perimeter defensive players like Lexi Hull and Natasha Howard, the Fever put a strategic chokehold on the Atlanta Dream's entire offensive scheme. Every shot was heavily contested, every passing lane was disrupted, every rebound was a ferocious battle fought by all 5 players on the court. The Dream, a team fully capable of scoring in explosive bunches, were held to a pathetic 60 points total, a number that speaks volumes about Indiana's defensive intensity. They shot a miserable 37% from the field and a dismal 5 for 19 from the three-point line, statistics that highlight just how suffocating the Fever's defense was from start to finish. This wasn't just a good defensive game. It was a systematic, 4-quarter dismantling of an opponent's will, a statement that they could win with grit when they couldn't win with pure glamour. The Fever players bought into a collective mission, and it showed on every single possession. They weren't just playing basketball. They were making a powerful statement about their identity as a team that would never, ever quit. In the aftermath, the mood in the Fever's locker room was one of justifiable pride and unified accomplishment, not just mere relief. Coach Stephanie White passionately praised her team's aggressiveness, attention to detail, and unwavering discipline under pressure. Aaliyah Boston, still catching her breath, pointed to the 50-50 balls and the hustle plays as the true difference maker, the heart plays that don't always show up in the main stat sheet. Kelsey Mitchell, a veteran leader, talked about the incredible, palpable energy from the crowd fueling them during every big defensive stop. Their words reflected exactly what everyone had witnessed, a unified group that had turned desperation into triumph, adversity into identity. The contrast with the Atlanta Dream side of the story was almost poetic. One team was talking about a fabricated incident in the stands. The other was talking about heart, character, and a historic defensive effort that defined who they are. The final score, 77-60, told the true, unambiguous story, a story that no amount of finger-pointing or narrative spinning could ever rewrite. It was a victory built on truth and effort, the exact opposite of the illusion the Dream had tried to create. But this story isn't over. This decisive victory sets the stage for a winner-take-all Game 3 back in Atlanta, and the challenge of the Fever becomes exponentially more difficult. The Dream, deeply embarrassed by their anemic offensive performance and the self-inflicted fallout from the fan incident, will be played with desperate, backs-against-the-wall fury in front of their home crowd. The Fever must now prove that their legendary defensive effort wasn't a one-off home court miracle, but the true identity of this team, an identity they can pack their bags and bring on the road into the heart of a hostile environment. The keys to the game are clear and immense. The defense must be just as suffocating, particularly in neutralizing Atlanta's key scorers. Ryan Howard, a superstar who was effectively silenced in Game 2, will be looking for redemption and will undoubtedly come out with more aggressive, attack-minded mentality from the opening tip. Containing her will require a collective effort, with players like Lexi Hull and Natasha Howard needing to replicate their disciplined, physical defense without falling into foul trouble. Similarly, Alicia Gray, who had a night she'd rather forget, will be aiming to channel her frustration into her performance, making her a volatile and motivated threat in the paint. On the offensive end, the burden will fall heavily on Kelsey Mitchell to maintain her scoring punch against what will be a much more focused and aggressive defensive scheme from Atlanta. They will likely throw double teams and constant disruptions her way, daring other players to beat them. This is where the supporting cast must rise to the occasion once more. Aaliyah Boston will face a relentless assault in the post and must use her intelligence and footwork to dominate without picking up cheap early fouls that could sideline her for crucial stretches. The role players Hull, Howard, Aerial Powers, Michaela Timpson must once again provide those critical, game-changing moments, the timely three-pointer, the clutch offensive rebound, the steal that ignites a fast break. The question hanging over everything is whether this short-handed, battle-tested group can dig deep for one more legendary performance. Can they summon the same desperate energy and flawless execution for a full 40 minutes on the road, where every call, every basket for the home team will be magnified? This is the ultimate test of their championship character. A win doesn't just advance them. It sends a shockwave through the league, proving that their resilience is real and that they are a force to be reckoned with for years to come. Game 3 is more than just a ticket to the next round to face Las Vegas or Seattle. It is an opportunity for the Indiana Fever to cement their transformation. For years, they have been viewed as a rebuilding project. A win in Atlanta would announce them as a legitimate, tough-minded playoff team. It would be a victory that validates their entire season and builds immense momentum for the future. Imagine this core group with a healthy Caitlin Clark back next to Boston, Mitchell, and Hull. The potential is staggering. The controversy sparked by Alicia Gray will fade from memory, a minor footnote in a larger saga. What will be remembered is a night the Indiana Fever, against all odds, shorthanded and backed into a corner, delivered performance of pure heart to keep their season alive. They didn't need a narrative. They had the scoreboard, and the scoreboard never lies. If you support the Fever and believe they can finish the job in Atlanta, let us know in the comments by typing "I've got the Fever." Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this deep dive, please give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss out on the stories that define the game.